GMO products. A GMO, or genetically modified organism, is the genes of one species that is then extracted and injected into an organism to express different traits.
This is an organically grown papaya. This particular one is infected with the very common ring spot virus. This is a papaya that's been genetically modified so that it has a tiny piece of the DNA from that very same ring spot virus embedded in its DNA. It's immune or resistant to ring spot infection.
They are resistant to a lot of diseases and fungus and things like that, and insect that could be harmful to the plant.
Everyday foods and snacks that you and I consume are most likely genetically engineered in some way, shape, or form. But who are the ones genetically modifying our food supply?
Is there any difference in the way that GMO products, plants, are grown? The answer is yes, and it was designed to be different.
In 1987, a company called Monsanto did its first test on genetically modified crops and has since then topped nearly $15 billion in revenue. A lot of that money then goes to increasing farmers' crop yields and increasing our food supply for our rapidly growing population. So, what's the problem here? Glyphosate, aka Roundup, is a toxic herbicide that farmers spray on resistant crops so that the plants will continue to grow, but the weeds will die.
It is the major pesticide that goes on most of the crops in this country, 250 million pounds of it.
Us being humankind, we try to take control of everything, but it could be detrimental to our food supply and to agriculture and things like that, because we're making crops resistant, declining good pollination of bees and butterflies and good insects. And we're not letting nature do its own thing.
The state of California, its Environmental Protection Agency, has decided to list the chemical glyphosate as a chemical known to cause cancer.
We got into our business as far as organic gardening because cancer was in our family. And so many people, whether it's cancer or some other disease that's popped up, it's linked back to a lot of pesticide use and genetically modified plants and seeds. And we don't know the harmful effects that they'll have for probably many more years to come.
In case this hasn't struck you why it's urgent, we consume these foods and crops nearly every day.
Practically every food you buy in a store is genetically modified food. If you're the complainer type, go back and eat the apples that grow wild. You know something? They're this big and they're tart. They're not sweet like red delicious apples. We manufactured those. That's a genetic modification.
Corn originally looked like this. Over years of selective breeding, we have turned it into a massive, crazy, giant mutant version of itself that we happily throw on the grill without thinking of the centuries of breeding necessary to turn a grass seed into a sweet and starchy masterpiece.
Without GMO crops, a lot of farmers would actually end up losing money. It's a lose-lose situation. But there still is a ray of hope. Since we have such a heavy reliance on GMOs for our food security, and not everyone grows organisms in their backyard, let's take baby steps. I believe that we should label what foods are GMOs and what are not.
Well, I think it is a choice for the consumer. Just like things are labeled organic, I think that some things should be labeled, whether it's GMO or non-GMO, and you're seeing a little bit of that, but it should be our choice to choose whether we want that product or not.
In fact, over 50 countries have done GMO labeling. Except United States and Canada, for some weird reason.
I think it has a lot to do with politics and a lot to do with what makes us money. Tomorrow I don't get sick just because I ate a GMO, then we don't, as consumers, demand that, and those products don't get listed, and we've just got to make that known that we demand a better culture than that.
Some action is being taken. By 2018, Whole Foods will be one of the first stores in America to have labeled their non-GMO and GMO products. And while some companies have taken the step of labeling some of their foods, not all have.
We're also in many ways telling consumers who have been activists in the grassroots that they don't need to know, that we know better than they do about what kind of information they need to know about what's in their food. That's a tough sell, It's a tough sell in a political environment where people think that this Washington, D.C. doesn't listen to them.
This is why Congress and President Donald Trump need to sign a bill requiring the labeling of GMO and non-GMO products. That way, us Americans have the right to choose.